Hey YouTube, Matt M. Roy back once again. Well, today I just have a quick upgrade video for you guys. This morning, I went down to the local thrift store, and while I was in there I got a call from a buddy of mine who does some scrapping, and he said that he had a bunch of old computer towers. Well, I said I'd meet him up at our local Walmart, and I did. And he had about maybe 20 or 30 towers in the back, and they were all on the older side. But there was one there that had a bunch of interesting upgrades. It was an old e-machine, so I decided to take that one. And inside that was this right here. This is an Antec True Power Trio, 430 watt power supply, model number TP3 430. So what am I going to do with this? Well, I've been thinking for a while that my quad-core Dell needs a little bit of an upgrade because that's running on a 300 watt Delta power supply right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this on the tripod, and I'm going to swap out that power supply and put this one in. So be right back, everybody. Alright, and we're back. And I had slightly made a mistake here. It's actually a HIPRO power supply that's in this one, not a Delta. The Delta is actually on my home theater PC setup. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and disconnect all of the power plugs. And in this case, they're all SATA. First one is right here on this bottom hard drive. Second is the secondary hard drive. Then we have the two optical drive cables, again, all SATA in this particular computer. And then, if you can see a little bit, I have the motherboard connector, which is right here. Pull that off. And then finally the P4 connector, which I have to wait because on this particular computer the P4 connector is right back here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is take the power supply out, and I'm going to answer the phone and I'll be right back. Alright, using my trusty Skill electric screwdriver, I'm going to go ahead and remove the 4 screws that hold the power supply in. One thing to note, certain cases the power supply will just fall down, so you want to be careful. In most cases, what you want to do once you take the 4 screws out, you want to have your other hand on the bottom to hold the power supply. But in this case, I knew that wouldn't happen because I've actually changed the power supply in this computer a couple of times. Alright, now we can go ahead and push on the back, because the power supply has to slide back just a tad, and then pull down a little bit. And there's not a lot of room to work in this case, so you just got to go easy until it pops out. Now I can go ahead and remove that P4 connector, which is actually sitting right here. And there we have it. Take a quick look at the old power supply. Again, this is a HIPRO ATX 24-pin power supply. And let me see, I think it does tell the wattage here. Yeah, right there it says 300 watts maximum. So this was a decent power supply, but this computer was definitely stressing it out. Now, in goes the new Antec True Power Trio. Putting it in is really simple, just like taking the old one out. The very first thing I'm going to do in this case is connect that P4 connector because it's very hard to get to once the power supply is in. Okay, so that P4 connector is put in place. Now we can go ahead and set the power supply. One thing to note, you want to be careful because at least in my case, the CPU heatsink is very close to the top. So what you want to do is look from the back and kind of angle in the power supply so you don't put too much stress on that CPU fan and heatsink. Now, you probably will hit it a little bit, but you want to put as little tension on that as possible. Just kind of work it in place. It will go in eventually. It might take a little finagling, but that's okay. All right. Now that we have the power supply in, go ahead and put the 4 screws back in it. When putting the first screw in, you might want to hold the back of the power supply just so it doesn't pop out of place. Sometimes to get the screws to line up properly, you might have to move the power supply a little bit. Once you put the first 2 in, however, everything should line up evenly. Alright, and now I just have to go ahead and connect all the cables. Whew! Alright, what a chore that was. But as you can see, I got the power supply mounted in there. I did the best I could with cable management. There's a lot of connections on this, so basically what I did is I used one of these ties that came with it, tied everything up and kind of shoved it in to the blank area there, because remember, whenever putting a power supply in, you want to make sure you keep the fan areas free, and of course you don't want to cover your memory either, because RAM tends to run very hot and could do damage to the computer. Or I've even seen cases where people have had the cables from the power supply resting on the memory, and it got so hot it actually melted a hole in the cable itself. So as long as you keep that free and the fans free of any cables, you should be good to go. Show you guys what it looks like in the back. Unlike the old power supply, which had the standard fan pulling right out the back, this is just basically like an 80mm case fan that they put in here. Kind of a cheap design. But this one, however, if you look on the bottom, uses, I believe that's a 120mm fan, and that goes ahead and pulls all the hot air out and then out the back. So this is a much more efficient design. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and put this case back on, and we'll see if everything works. Alright, now I have everything hooked back up. This is going to be a true smoke test because I have not tried turning on at all, so get ready everybody. It's a good sign. Okay. Felt behind it. Appears that the fan is working properly in the power supply. No unusual noises or anything. That's always good. Okay. Definitely getting power to both of the optical drives. Also, the memory card reader is showing that it also has power. And it was doing updates when I shut it down, so it's applying them at the moment. I'll go ahead and be back with you guys as soon as it starts up. Alright, and it looks like we have a successful install. The video card did initialize. And the very last thing I need to check is to make sure that it's also getting power to my secondary hard drive. So let's go ahead and open up computer. Alright, and there you go. You can see both my hard drives and both of my optical drives are being found, which is very good. No unusual sounds. The fan on there is nice and quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and call this a success. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and remember, have a blessed day, everybody.